It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Monday, Gary, what is happening?
Well, I was thinking I saw the story where AOC said, if Trump is elected, he will arrest me. She didn't say the charge, but I'm guessing it would be loitering.
Probably.
Yeah. Being there but not doing anything.
Not doing anything.
Right.
Just hanging out for no reason.
So, I don't know. Is there a federal charge for loitering?
There should be. Get Alvin Bragg on the case. I know he's not a federal prosecutor. It doesn't matter. I don't make the rules. He does. If they can make it up as they go along, so can we. I don't care. Throw the playbook out. It doesn't even have to be a prosecutor. Get somebody.
What else? I'm just scanning the headlines here.
Well, everybody had it wrong on the one thing on the gaffe, the President Biden saying money for Iraq instead of Ukraine.
Yes.
No, he didn't mean Ukraine. Even he meant Iran. Everybody has this wrong.
Oh,
I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong.
By the way, Trump promised at the rally, I believe, in Vegas, that anyone that he is going to stop taxes on tips.
Yeah, no, they won't do that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, folks.
So keep on. Know. So for all the servers out there, keep on not reporting those tips.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no need to start reporting those tips.
And
if he becomes president.
And the reason that's not going to happen is you'd have to get the IRS to redo the definition of income taxes, and that's not going to survive federal courts.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, if Congress wanted to go in and totally rewrite tax law,
that's not
happening.
Yeah.
Then that's one thing. But he can't do it from the executive branch.
No, he can't.
Yeah.
No.
So,
and I don't believe you're going to see Congress saying some forms of income, because even if Congress did it, there might be a problem if you
carve out one kind of income.
If you carve out one kind of income but not another.
Mm-hmm. In exchange for work.
Now,
not like selling on eBay.
Now, if they want to get rid of all income tax, and that would be fine. I mean, that'd be fine with me. Go to a sales tax. Yeah, I mean that. They could do that, but there would be constitutional problems with that one. Besides that, it was. I mean, what an interesting weekend it was. The CNN, the hostages were released.
Yeah.
And did you see the media reporting that they rescued these hostages out of a civilian center?
Mm-hmm.
No. It was not a civilian center. If the hostages were there being held by Hamas, it's not a civilian center.
Well, when you're getting all of your talking points from Hamas, it's clear. The media, the White House, they're getting all of their talking points from Hamas.
I forgot whether it was NBC, ABC, or CBS, but I was just going through the news, and all I heard was I was scanning. I think this was Saturday, and they said the Gaza Health Ministry, and I just went by.
Yeah.
That's Hamas.
Yeah,
as if it's legit.
See, when you said that out loud, it made me cough. Gaza Health Ministry.
It's like it's Hamas.
Yeah.
I love the one rescued out of a civilian center.
Uh-huh.
No, it's a Hamas hideout.
Yeah,
is what it is. I mean, it's just, oh my gosh, and just the.
And by the way, we have to bring everybody that story from CNN because nobody else watches CNN.
Oh, the CNN story where they said the hostages were released.
Yeah, right.
It's like, no, they weren't released.
Yeah.
My God.
No. Gosh. But if are they just sitting on the phone or just sitting by the phone or sitting at their computer waiting for Hamas to send them all of their talking points and press releases? I guess that's how it works.
Then I'm reading the editorial board blaming Israel. By the way, it's Monday, so we're just gathering all the information together here. I know we're jumping from topic to topic, but we do that a lot. And why? Because we know you can handle it. Yeah. Blaming Israel for rescuing its people. Hamas hid 4 hostages in a crowded civilian area and fired on rescuers. It's rare good news in a grinding war. On Saturday, Israel commandos rescued 4 hostages from 2 civilian buildings. See what they even put that?
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Civilian buildings.
If they're holding hostages and Hamas is holding hostages, they're not a civilian building.
Right.
It was high risk but well planned and executed mission, and that is a morale boost for Israelis. Let me just go here. I want to get to the part where they start talking about. Here it is. The non-surprise is that professional anti-Israeli voices, United Nations officials, and the European Union foreign policy chief rushed to attack Israel. Egypt condemned the operation in the strongest terms. Wall Street Journal writes, "How dare Israel rescue its own citizens?
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't know there would be casualties." The BBC asked whether Israel gave warning that the rescue raid was coming.
Right.
Seriously, a tip-off to terrorist?
They rang the doorbell. Excuse me, we're here for our hostages, and our ball went over the fence.
Yeah, perhaps read them their Miranda rights, too.
Yeah, why not?
Breaking. Gaza's health ministry. That was the one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Health ministry says 274 Palestinians were killed during the Israeli operation. Reports the Associated Press only 48 hours after it had exposed how the Hamas ministry's daily death tolls are at odds with underlying data. When will the media stop taking the kidnappers at their word?
Well, no, I mean, this is the thing. You and I have talked over the years about how the Israelis don't do this whole, embedded journalist thing. It's like, no, we're here to do something. Get out. You don't get to. Yeah. We're not going to play that game. And so, by default, the media just decides they're going to listen to Hamas. Hamas is going to write all of the stories. And it's not just the talking points for the media; it's the talking points for the White House.
Oh, I mean, there was Biden called for a ceasefire again and to stop the war.
Yeah,
and,
right.
We saw it was an interesting article I was reading. I forgot where I think it was Wall Street Journal or National Review. I'll find the story a little bit later on, talking about Democrats don't see the problem when people are. They sit there and they say, that January 6th. January 6th was a long time ago, and it's like, look at all the different times and the times that are going to happen here where the left is going to go crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's not equal punishment. There are people, nobody was arrested. No one.
Right.
For everybody climbing on the statues on federal property and everything else, nobody, according to the Wall Street Journal, was arrested.
Right.
No one.
Right.
They tried to arrest one person, but the crowd got in the police's way, and so the police let the guy go. And so nobody, and you saw what they're doing, defacing and doing it. It's like you do that and you continue to show the reputation that there is a two-tier system of justice in this country. Conservatives get treated one way and Democrats and liberals get treated another way, or Democrats get treated one way and Republicans get treated another.
Right.
And it's just, that is the kind of thing, the perception. And perception is reality, and many times perception is reality. Mm-hmm. But that's what you get over and over again. It's like Democrats just don't realize it, and it's not going to end. But you had a massive pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, Jew-hating protest with vandalism and vandalism and trespassing on federal property. Nobody was arrested at all. No one.
No.
Because they want it going on. It's what they want.
Yep.
It's what the Democrats want.
Yep.
I did like, though, some of the studies. I know the CBS had their study that almost 2/3 of Americans, including a significant portion of Democrats, want illegal immigrants deported. I want to get to this.
That's pretty huge.
Oh, and only 1 in 5. 20% means 80% do not or they don't know. But only 1 in 5 believe that Biden actually wants to keep illegal immigration down.
Right.
Only 1 in 5.
Yeah. Well,
And everything that came out over the weekend shows the same thing again. You know, Bill Maloogian out there. It's like nothing's happening at all. It's the exact same. There's no change.
Right.
The one memo that came out that said no, basically 80-90% of the people can come right back in again. There really is no change at all. Again, this was a premeditated, calculated lie.
Yeah.
It wasn't because, okay, my back's against the wall, I'm going to lie here. This was the entire operation was about lying to the American public again about what's going on at the border.
Right.
Yeah.
And they thought they were going to get away with it. But the problem is when the border is the number one issue along with the economy, you can't get away with that. This isn't 2016, and he's still playing by the 2016 playbook. You know, the 2016 playbook was if you don't want people coming here, you're a racist. And that was what the left was doing. And they kept building their sanctuary city, county, state policy over and over again and stayed on that. And the American people back then wanted the border secured. But now you see where the overwhelming majority are supporting deportation. That's a massive, massive turn. And that means, as you point out, a significant number of Democrats, rank-and-file Democrats, want that. And this is why they haven't been able to come out and really talk about this executive move here by Biden on the border. Democrats don't know where to go with it. They don't know where to go on the whole convicted felon thing. Oops, backlash. Because you're not in line with the American people.
Well, as I said, the public understands that, you know, because what they're saying is, no, he's a convicted felon, which is trying to sell the American public that every prosecution that is done in the United States is legit.
Right.
That you only question the defendant. You only question the defendant. You never question whether the prosecutor or the judge are doing the right thing. You can't question that no matter what the circumstances are, because you must stand by the judicial system. Well, we all know, everybody knows that's a load of horse manure.
Yeah.
If they're doing the right thing, you know it. And you know if they're doing the right thing here. I mean, it's not hard to figure out what the law is and how they perverted the law. It's not hard to figure out that the judge is a rogue judge and did not follow what the law was and lied to the jury. It's not hard to figure it out. It's all out there. The transcripts are out there. We know what the judge did, and that's where the American public stands. The American public looks at it and says, you have a rogue. Look, it's not hard. It's not hard with Bragg. It's not hard to convince the American public that he's a crooked prosecutor.
Right.
He's the one that came into office day one.
Yep.
And said, we're not going to charge with a felony anybody who uses a gun in a commission of a crime if they don't pull the trigger. I mean, that's the kind of insanity that comes from this guy.
Yeah. Right.
And so, the American public looks like, okay, fine. Well, that's insane, and no bail. And then you had the migrants who attacked the cops. All that. They look at it and they go, sorry. You're making the assumption that the American public are a bunch of idiots and are only going to look at one thing and say, no, Trump must be guilty, and the judge and the prosecutor are perfect.
Right.
Doesn't work that way.
No, they really do. They think they can just pass it through the same a mentality that they can, with the left and everything that they've done over the years, they've been able to get by with everything, and they're just testing new grounds here, thinking, oh, we'll get away with it. And the fact is that on something this huge, we're not talking about jaywalking. But if you think about the civil case against Trump, hundreds of millions of dollars in fines, unprecedented levels of fines, and then making up 34 counts that don't exist. This is what they know is locally. Bragg knows he could get away with it. He could fine 12. That's all he needed to do, and the judge helped him. So you get that similar mindset going, great. And inside that bubble, yep, they can do that all day long. Let's see how it plays out in the courts above that. They honestly believe they're going to get away with it forever. And they can if we let them. These are all choices. Every bit of this is choice. On everything we're facing right now, these are all decisions made by people that we supported or allowed them to get away with it. And we can either stop it or we can change it. We can change it forever, or we can just let it go on forever.
We've got a great show coming up, 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Every driver knows the cost of replacing tires is a major expense. What if you could save on tire costs without sacrificing performance or safety? Consider retreads, a sustainable, cost-effective way to rack up your miles. Retreads have a reputation for causing that rubber debris or gators found on the sides of the highway. However, studies show that 68% of the tire debris collected on the highway comes from new tires, not retreads. The reality is that retreads will wear at the same rate as new tires if you don't properly maintain them. Retreads are still a major investment and require engaged maintenance practices.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Even the mainstream media pushing back on the border situation. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. Interesting, you saw the European Union votes, and it looks like more conservative thought being brought in to the European Union.
Yeah, right.
Look, you and I have said this. The one big difference in society today, worldwide, is that all liberal ideas that were abstract before, you could say, well, if we do this in the future, this is going to be this way. All liberal ideas now are hitting reality.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's from Scotland. He's lived over here for a number of years, but he was talking about the whole Brexit thing and this idea of people going back and forth across borders. He said it's still a problem after Brexit, but it's a problem because those who were concerned about having people coming across their borders and not being able to do anything about it, were the loudest voices at that time. That's how Brexit came about. And he said that now you still have that problem. Those voices are still loud. And look, when you get into things like austerity in Europe, they want to go to the right on certain things, but then you talk austerity, just like here in the U.S.
Yeah.
You talk about making cuts in someone's backyard, and they're going, wait, whoa, no. Is the debt a problem? Yeah, the debt's a problem. Okay, we need to cut these things. No, don't cut anything. But there are a lot of things on the policy list that on the left aren't working. And as you said, reality is basically hashing all that out.
Call and join the conversation. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Interesting how the media pushing back on the Biden executive order to secure the border. We'll get to one of the audio cuts in just a moment here. But Bill Malugin over the weekend from Fox News probably has covered the border better than anybody over the last couple of years, hasn't he?
I'd say the folks at Breitbart, Texas, and Bill Malugin are right there at the top. Yeah.
New Fox News has obtained an internal Border Patrol memo sent to agents in San Diego sector after President Biden's executive order took effect, instructing them to release single adults from all but 6 countries in the Eastern Hemisphere and classify them as hard or very hard to remove. Specifically, the memo instructs agents to process all single adults from 100-plus countries in the Eastern Hemisphere as notice to appear, release on their own recognizance, except for 6 countries which are deemed mandatory referral countries. President Biden and DHS promised consequences and removal for those who crossed illegally between ports of entry after the executive order took effect, but the overwhelming majority of illegal crossers in the San Diego sector, including the Chinese, Middle Eastern, and African adults we've been showing, are still being released into the United States with future court dates, as our coverage has shown repeatedly with Border Patrol mass releases at the trolley station in San Diego. In background with reporters, DHS officials acknowledged the difficulty of removing illegal immigrants from Eastern Hemisphere countries, as some governments won't cooperate with the U.S. repatriation flights, travel documents, and won't take their citizens back. DHS officials said they are engaged with these countries and are trying to enhance cooperation. Bottom line, in the short term, mass catch and release continues for all illegal immigrants in the San Diego sector who continue pouring in from all countries around the globe. So we covered Malugin last week. Let's hear. This is again from this week, and listen to this. This is Mayorkas on there, and he's blunt. He's very blunt here. When you see the major focus of his discussion here, it's about making sure that we don't have the tie-ups at the border and you get people into the country as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish I was telling a lie, but I'm not. Here it is. And he's actually called on it. Here we go.
And incentivize them to use the lawful pathways that we have made available to them and keep them out of the hands of exploitative smugglers. It's early. The signs are positive. Our personnel have done an extraordinary job in implementing a very big shift in how we operate on the southern border.
President Biden said this ban will remain in place until the number of people trying to enter illegally is reduced to a level that our system can effectively manage, meaning, as we said, that average of 1,500 encounters or less over a period of 14 days. We said that has never happened. Do you really expect that to happen in the coming months or before Election Day?
Martha, it is 1,500, an average of 1,500 individuals encountered over a 7-day consecutive period. We are driving to that, and that's not all we're doing. We are also communicating throughout the region about the lawful pathways. We are driving people to use...
But that's something you've been doing all along. You've been trying to do that with people. I want to go back to an interview I did with you in March of 2021, 2 months into your tenure as DHS Secretary. You seemed totally confident then that you had that under control. Let's listen to what you told me.
We have seen large numbers of migration in the past. We know how to address it. We have a plan. We are executing on our plan, and we will succeed. This is what we do. But one thing is also clear, that it takes time. It's tough, but we can do it. This is what we do, and we will accomplish our mission.
We will succeed. That was 3 years ago. Since then, 6.5 million migrants have been apprehended along the southern border. It would be very hard to call that a success.
Ouch. But, you know, he's pointing out exactly what we've been saying. And he's admitting it, and he seems to be very proud of it. Hey, we opened the border. Everybody just come through the open border. Everyone just come through the open border.
Well, what he's also saying is, and they're not stopping, as Bill Mnuchin says, people coming through the border. But what he's promoting is the fact that we have a bunch of ways for you to come in. We've got the app. We fly you directly in. You don't need to come to the border.
It's open.
We've got a valet service for you to bring you into the United States. And he said it twice with her.
Yeah.
He made sure twice, and she goes, "Well, you've been doing that all along, trying to get people in."
Right.
So the whole goal of the administration
That's the complaint.
is not to stop it and go back to the legal system that we have. It's I'm going to come up with every executive order to get people in here and have them bypass the border.
Yeah.
We'll just fly them in directly. We'll get them in direct. Put out, here's the app. Hundreds of thousands, millions. You can come in here without ever coming to the border. Don't come to the border. Don't crowd it up. Don't get us the bad video of it. We'll just fly you in stealthily.
Why not?
We'll get you into the country. Millions will get in a stealth kind of way, and they're admitting it.
Oh, they're proud of it. This is the entire design. The border's open. Come on. How do you need to get across? Come on. We'll facilitate. And by the way, if you have any suggestions about how we can make it easier for you,
Yes.
we have a hotline. And they're proud of that. That's where we are in the border. They have no intention of securing the border and shutting it down. They have no numbers. There's no 4,000 a day. Shut up. It's open. The border is open. Come on in.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's almost as if they said, "Look, we can't convince the American public that we're actually trying to do something. So let's just tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Let's just tell them, hey, we're trying to get people in, trying to get as many hundreds of thousands, millions of people in every year, and we don't need them." Because you heard he said that if we do it this way, then the cartels can't manipulate it.
Right. Yeah.
That the goal has never been to stop people from coming in the country. Now what they're saying is, okay, it really looks bad when they're all crowded at the border and the fentanyl coming in and everything else with the cartels. So let's see if we can bypass the cartels and get as many millions of people as we possibly can into the country. That's what, by the way, that's what the Democratic Party wants. That's what a significant portion of the Democrat voter wants. They want the country to be overwhelmed with illegal immigrants. Otherwise, they would be outraged about it. Now, maybe they will be. I mean, there's a new registered voters, 62% deport all undocumented immigrants, 38% oppose. So maybe we're getting there, and only 1 in 5 voters believe that Biden actually wishes to reduce the number of people coming in.
Mm-hmm. And this idea that they care about the cartel's involvement. No, you don't. There's more fentanyl coming across the border than ever. And they're also using your policy as a means to get people and drugs across, and you know it.
There it is. Only 1 in 5 say Biden wants to reduce migration. Just 1 in 5 Americans expect President Joe Biden to reduce migration during a second term if reelected. So it's not as if the American public, on every issue, the American public understands the issues. From what we can see from all the polls, the American public understands clearly the issues, and it's landslide numbers that understand exactly what the Biden administration's trying to do.
Right.
And as we have stated before, I still want to see the Republicans pounding this. Democrats and the Biden administration cannot solve the problems, cannot and will not solve the problems we face today on inflation, and illegal immigration, and crime, because they caused the problems.
Yep.
They created the problems.
Yep.
They have no incentive to try to fix it because this is the country that they want. Is this the country you want?
They're bragging. They're bragging on Sunday morning news shows about it. It couldn't be more clear.
Yeah.
And how's it going in your city? How's it going?
Well, and Martha Raddatz, and they're talking two different things. She's talking about stopping the flow from coming in, and he's saying we're trying to get as many people in as we possibly can and have them avoid the border so we don't get bad film on this. We want to fly people in a stealth way. We want them to sign up to the app and just come in.
Yeah.
We're still not going to stop anybody who comes in anyway, as Bill Maloogian has been saying all last week since the executive order went in, but we're going to pretend that we're trying to stop them at the border, and meanwhile, we'll be blunt and public about the fact we want millions coming in the new stealth way that we have approved through Biden's executive orders for them to come in the country.
Yeah.
The public knows it. It
Right.
shows it right there. 62%. Think about that. It's so bad for the American public. 62% believe that there should be mass deportation of illegal immigrants in this country. 60. I don't think the number's ever been higher.
Yeah.
I would like to see if the number's ever been higher. That's the chaos that they've created at the border, and they continued to do it. And Biden lied to the American public last week about what was the intent. And immediately when you read what he put out there, everybody knew immediately, all right, this is all BS. They're lying to the American public again.
Right.
They know the American public doesn't want it, but they wish to continue doing it, so they lie to the American public.
Yeah, sure.
Which means a significant portion of Democrat voters want this.
Yep.
It's what they want.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'd be forced to stop.
Right. And they're not slowing down. They're bragging about it.
Yeah.
They're bragging about it.
They're bragging. He is bragging about it. We're very proud of what we're doing here.
Right.
We've worked so hard to make sure that people can come in without going to the border.
Right.
We'll fly them in. Fill out the app. You can come in. No problem whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what the American public wants.
Nope.
On inflation, it's not what the American public wants. On anti-Semitism and Jew-hating, it's not what the American public wants. And that's the National Democratic Party today.
Yep. They're about to take the stage here in a couple of months, next month in Chicago.
Just amazing. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. It's a Monday.
Yeah,
so happy that you're here. Greetings. An hour into the show. Mm-hmm. Coming up, we'll have some of the latest polls out there. Also, Jonathan Turley, something that we had touched on, but he goes into more specifics. There it is. We now know the laptop. Completely legitimate. And
yeah. Yep.
Did you hear what was it? Was it Clapper or Brennan over the weekend that came out and said he still stands by it?
Uh-huh.
How do you stand by it?
How do you stand by it? It's over.
Right. But Jonathan Turley's like, this is a parallel universe. Nobody, they reported it as if, well, yeah, this is the new information here, and they never went back and looked at their own coverage or said, let's find these 51 people and ask some questions. Why did you do it? Like they would do if it was conservatives or the Republicans that did it. Mm-hmm. It was nothing. We'll get to that coming up here. Plus some of the specifics of a few polls out there. YouGov did a poll on immigration and the border, and so did CBS. We'll get to some audio on that. What else do we get? Oh, I love this article. Normal People movie Normal People movie is outperforms at box offices. It's a normal person movie. More on the hostages out there is coming up. Insurance rates and how insurance is skyrocketing. Auto and home rates are soaring. Still,
saw an article where more and more people are deciding not to buy homeowners insurance. And, because you get into the discussion of people who are retired, have 100% equity in the home, and then look at the insurance rates and say, I can't afford it. And the question is, what options do they have? It's getting to where, and I think that's a bad idea. I think you should protect the asset, because if it's all you have, you definitely should protect it. But more and more people opting not to get homeowners insurance.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I had a great weekend. Talk about exciting.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was the most exciting weekend I've had in a long time.
Really?
I used my new pressure washer to clean the back pool deck.
All right, then.
To have that pressure washer, man, I'm telling you.
They're great, aren't they?
I was really, there I am, probably for 2 hours using it. After about an hour, I had to rest because I was just leaning over a little bit, and my back got a little tight. So I sat down. And I was like, I got to get back up and finish that. This is just great. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I felt like I'm Tim Allen or something. Wow, these pressure washers, what does it do? Well, it puts the water under pressure and cleans dirt and other grime off your pool deck.
Yeah.
And that's exciting? Damn straight it is.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
So I had so much. I was up. Well, the thing is, I was up early on Sunday morning, as I always am, but I had to wait. I wasn't sure how loud. I just got it last week, so I wasn't sure how loud it was going to be, and it wasn't loud at all. So by 8:30, I was out there in the morning, in the shade still.
7 o'clock in my neighborhood, all bets are off. That's when crews start at 7 a.m. So I go by the clock, and depends on the time of year. I have enough light now at 6:25, 6:30, somewhere around there, to start. And there are quieter things that I can do during that time leading up till 7. At 7, you'll hear everything from large construction equipment to chainsaws, everything else in my neighborhood. So
yeah, I don't hear anything normally, except on Friday. Went to sleep 6 o'clock when I got home. I need to put a sign in my house. Do not knock on my door. No solicitation. I got to put it up now.
Yeah.
25 after 7, somebody's pounding on my door.
Yeah. Wow.
And woke me up and did it 3 times. Bam, 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 ring the doorbell. Bam, 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 ring the doorbell. Like over a period of 2 minutes. Bam, 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 ring the doorbell.
Mm.
And I didn't get up. I just looked at my phone, got my phone, looked at the camera out front. It's like, oh my gosh, is somebody trying to sell me something at 7:25 in the morning on a Friday morning? Out of their freaking minds?
Yeah.
They're lucky I didn't go to the door.
Yeah.
I would have yelled.
Yep.
I would have yelled.
Yeah. Yeah, none of that. None of that.
Yeah. I could handle... And a few people are having their roofs replaced, those that didn't do it like 3 years ago. And so, that sound will start after 7 o'clock. Sounds like a machine gun as they're taking off all the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like bam, 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 bam.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it was a good weekend. All right, you ready for the craziness?
What do you got?
Here we go. You ready? This is true. All right. This is absolutely true story. I'm just reading you the story.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Do not get on my case. The Canadian Cancer Society acknowledged the LGBTQ community on a webpage dedicated to cervical cancer under the page's Words Matter section. And what they're advising is you don't call it cervical cancer anymore because men can have a cervix, so they are suggesting front hole cancer.
Yeah.
Do I have to go any further reading the story?
No.
Or are we done? Are we basically done there?
No. You have to apologize for saying body parts now.
The nonprofit said that many non-binary people and transgender men have mixed feelings or distance themselves from the term cervical cancer.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The word suggested front hole cancer.
That's right. You got cancer of the front hole, or at least one of the front holes.
These people are absolutely insane. Like I said, that's where you see all the insanity going on with right now. We had said from the very, very beginning, if you're going to be a political party or political ideology that will tell this kind of lie and be this ridiculous on something that is such a science standard as XX and XY chromosomes.
The party of science.
The so-called party of science. If you're going to hold that opinion, you lose credibility every time you open your mouth on anything. Now the thing is, it's not like they just took that issue and everything else they're sane on. They're insane on everything.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? A man can be a man if a man, or a man can be a woman if a man says so, and defund the police.
Yeah.
And keep spending and borrowing money and wonder why inflation is so high. Who do we blame? Okay, it's those mean corporations out there. No, you're causing the inflation. We're going to close the border. Not really. We're just going to allow people to come in a stealth kind of way.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to reduce the number of people at the border by allowing people to fly in or use an app to get in. No problem whatsoever.
And we're bragging about it on Sunday morning news shows.
I know.
If you use the word cervix, you're filled with hate. You're Satan.
Refer to it as front hole cancer.
Yeah.
Can't make this up. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
Yeah. And
they're serious.
And you'll get called out. In Canada, it might get you jail time.
Yeah?
You get it wrong. Prison for you.
What are you doing? Life in prison for not calling it front hole cancer.
Yeah. I'm a non-front holer.
Right.
I come from a long line of non-front holers. Grandmother's dying words. Don't call it front hole. It's a cervix.
Don't get angry at us. We're simply reporting the insanity the left is doing. I want to make this clear. No emails to us saying, come on, guys. Can't you cover something else? Nope.
Yeah.
Not right now.
I don't have an ounce of hate in my body, but I'm not calling it front hole. That's a T-shirt if I ever thought of one. Right there.
Oh, my God.
I'm not filled with hate, but I'm not calling it front hole.
I think they actually...
I'm totally going to make $1 million off that one. This is how insane it's gotten. We're going to cry if you use the scientific body part. And we're going to force you to apologize for using it. How dare you?
I just wonder on everything, where the Democrats are going to go now, as we talked about the border, that obviously, whether it's Bill Maloogian reporting it or Mayorkas on the Sunday morning news shows being blunt. The only goal is to stop people from being at the border. And we've offered all these other ways that through executive order, that they can come in the country for any reason. And we're not stopping anybody even if they're at the border. And hopefully we'll have lower numbers at the border because we're going to fly them in, or they can use the app to come in.
Yeah, right.
We'll fly them in for another city. You don't need to go to the border. Go to Mexico City. Go to any other city in Mexico. We'll fly you in.
Come on, modern times. What else you want?
And with that, where do they go now? Because they can't stop inflation now.
No.
As we see, there's not going to be any cuts, so inflation isn't going to be stopped. They're not going to stop what's going on at the border.
Nope.
They're not going to stop defunding the police in these major cities.
Nope.
They're not going to stop with their Jew hating, their hatred of Jews. They're not going to stop it. They're not going to stop with their anti-Semitism. They're not going to stop with their pro-terrorist mindset. You saw what happened over the weekend. They're going to let these people riot and do whatever they want. They're not going to arrest them.
Right.
And so where does Biden go? And it's still, Democrats don't know whether to call him a convicted felon or not. I was looking just at a headline of another article here that said, Democrats must remind voters that Trump is a criminal.
You said during the break, this tells you how bad it is, the fact that they have to say that.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's their biggest political pawn of the political season isn't working for them. Think about that. Because reality shows something very different. Reality looks at it. We've said all along, that Trump hasn't really flinched. I'd be going bat soup crazy. All these things thrown that aren't true. And then legally. And then you get 12 jurors to side and a judge to side with you on your agenda. But it's not playing out how they thought it would. It's not. It's flying right back in their face, and they can't figure out why. People like that don't learn. They don't want to learn. They don't want to change. But when you've been indoctrinated for generations to feel this kind of disdain and hate for someone, and for Trump, it comes down to one person, then you can't change that. You can't.
When you see the CBS poll and the other poll, we'll get to it on the border, and then everything else, you realize that the American public has, according to the polls, have figured out the Democrats and where they stand, and they don't want it. I mean, you see that deportation number from CBS News, and it shows the vast majority of the country is panicking about what they view that everything is wrong, and they sort of figured out that this is what the Democrats want. This isn't an accident. This is the policy of the Democrats. Everything that you see is the policy of Democrats, and that's why we have stated we believe the Republicans should be running an ad constantly saying Joe Biden and the Democrats will not fix the border. They will not fix the cities. They're not going to go after criminals. They can't and won't fix the problems that we have today because they caused the problems and they created the problems that we have today, because what you see right now in America is what they actually want.
Yeah. This is exactly what they want.
And so Republicans, come on. I get emails on it all the time since we've been You've been promoting that like the last 3-4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I get emails like they're still not doing what you guys told them to do.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, they are starting to hit around the edges, though. You know, especially on illegal immigration.
Yeah, they're going at it in parts.
Yep. But it needs to be the umbrella, and you could list you could do a 30-second spot. Democrats won't. Democrats and Joe Biden will not. All right, let me time it here. Okay, hang on. When I'm looking at the clock here, so I can time it into a 30-second spot. All right, here we go. Democrats and Joe Biden won't and can't fix the problems that we have today. They can't fix the border. They can't fix inflation. They can't fix the crime in the cities. Why? Because they caused and created these problems. So this is the country that they want. Vote Donald Trump and Republicans.
Yeah.
Okay. That was actually only 24 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So
Time for all the legalese, This ad paid for by by Americans who aren't insane.
No, there should be a pact that
Hmm.
for Americans that aren't insane. There should be a pact that does that actually does that.
That's my whole point. Yeah.
Yeah.
This ad paid for by Americans who aren't insane.
And they should pound that because the American public already thinks it. For the American public to show the 80%, that only 1 in 5 believe that Biden wants that in the second term there'll be fewer migrants coming in. That tells the story right there. They know the president's BSing.
Yep.
866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets, percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, I wish we could fast forward to September, October already now, because not much is going to really happen. I mean, the debate's coming up. It'll be interesting to see about that. Trump saying again that Biden should be drug tested, but unless he makes that a red line request, that's not going to happen. So he should stop saying it unless he means to do it. That's my opinion on that one.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do it, if you're not going to say, well, look, that's the standard, and I'm not going to debate you unless you take a test, I don't see the purpose of it. Again, I disagreed with the concessions that Trump made. I think he could have made, could have negotiated and said, well, no, I'm going to do it, but not under any circumstance. Good God, if you let Biden do it, he'd sit there and say, all right, he gets to use a teleprompter and gets the questions, to him. And I don't even know if that's the case because Trump hasn't really negotiated anything in this whole thing.
Well,
and
if he can use notes, if he can use a teleprompter, why can't he use an earpiece or anything else?
Right.
Or why not just have his wife whisper the answers into his ear right there on stage? But I think July 11th, I think, is going to be a big deal. The conventions, I'm curious to see what they're going to do, the DNC, on their convention. This thing of, partially virtual, I have no idea what that looks like. And especially when it's not done because of COVID. They no longer have COVID to hide behind. But I think July 11th, we'll see where it comes down on the sentencing for Trump, and then the conventions. And aside from that, there's really not much between now and November.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose. So Jonathan Turley's column from late last week, watching the coverage out of Delaware this week was like finding oneself in a parallel universe. There were ABC, NBC, CBS, the Washington Post, and other news media outlets reporting matter-of-factly that the Hunter Biden laptop showed no evidence of tampering and was both real and authentic. These are the same outlets and some of the same reporters who eagerly spread the false claims that the laptop was Russian disinformation. Yet what followed the testimony of FBI agent Erica Jensen was absolute crickets. There was no effort to track down the signatories of the now debunked letter from former intelligence officials just before the election. In the letter, figures such as Leon Panetta, former CIA director in the Obama administration, claimed the laptop had all the markings of a Russian disinformation effort by intelligence services. Panetta continued to make the assertion even in late 2023 in pushing what the federal government is now calling a conspiracy theory. There was no attempt by the media to confront associates of the Biden campaign, including now Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who pushed a long effort to get former intelligence officials to sign the letter. There was no attempt to question President Joe Biden, who made this false claim in the presidential election to deflect any questions about the evidence of corrupt influence peddling on the laptop. Years ago, I wrote that the Biden campaign had pulled off the single greatest political trick in history. As I wrote back then, the key to this Houdini-esque trick was to get the media to invest in the deception like audience members called to the stage. They are all laptop deniers, but they know that there are few who will call them to account for their conspiracy theory. Rather, it is social media where readers can see videos of leading media claiming that the laptop was a work of Russian intelligence. In 2020, CBS's Leslie Stahl literally laughed and mockingly at then President Donald Trump when he raised a Hunter Biden laptop and what it revealed about the Bidens. Former figures like Chief of Staff at the CIA and Department of Defense Jeremy Bash, who told MSNBC that the laptop looked like Russian intelligence and walked like Russian intelligence. He dismissed the relevance of the laptop before the election by declaring that this effort by Rudy Giuliani and the New York Post and Steve Bannon to cook up supposed dirt on Joe Biden looks like classic Russia playbook disinformation campaign. Biden added that it made Trump an effective agent of Russia intelligence since he kept referencing the laptop. When Rudy Giuliani suddenly comes forward with these mysteriously created emails, probably hacked through a Russia intelligence operation, we have to acknowledge the fact that the President of the United States is supporting, is condoning, is welcoming a Russia intelligence operation in 2020. This is collusion in plain sight. Bash, like others behind the conspiracy theory, was later given an intelligence position by Joe Biden. The New York Times and Washington Post both eventually verified Hunter Biden laptop after big tech dismissed the New York Post bombshell reporting during the 2020 presidential election. The Post reporting was famously censored by Twitter ahead of the 2020 election. Wow. As CNN told viewers, we do know it is a very active Russia campaign. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a lie. Indeed, the Washington Post has continued to suggest that the reporting was accurate. One of the leading purveyors of this false story was the Post's Philip Bump, who slammed the New York Post for its now proven Hunter Biden laptop story. In 2021, when media organizations were finally admitting that the laptop was authentic, Bump was still declaring that it was a conspiracy theory. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, Bump continued to suggest that the laptop was seeded by Russia intelligence. After Bump had a meltdown in an interview when confronted over past false claims, I wrote a column about the litany of such false claims. The Post surprised many of us by issuing a statement that they stood by all of Bump's reporting, including the laptop conspiracy theory. That was August of 2023. Of course, his trick would not have been possible without the assistance of 50 former intelligence officials who were reportedly organized through the Clinton campaign associates to issue the infamous letter. These figures then continued to spread the false claims. Former CIA Director John Brennan, one of the 50 who signed the letter, also claimed the laptop bore the hallmarks of Russia disinformation. James Clapper, former Director of National Intelligence and CNN analyst, said the laptop was classic, textbook Soviet Russia tradecraft at work. Members of Congress also repeated the false claims, told the media not to join Giuliani as a vehicle of Russia disinformation. Adam Schiff, former chair of the House Intelligence Committee, insisted that the laptop was clearly Russia propaganda. He goes on and on and on. It was all BS, folks. Everything.
Well,
everything was a lie.
And no surprise, look who the National Security Advisor is. It's Jake Sullivan. Look at his hand in the whole Russian collusion hoax and everything else. And if you've been following that, so it's no surprise that, again, they tried to hold on to this as long as possible until they couldn't. Lab leak theory on COVID. How dare you? We'll end your social media presence. And they did. What? Speaking of which, the New York Post banned from social media for reporting something. And we said from the beginning, if they're wrong, they're wrong. Why do you want to ban them? That just reeked of something that was at a very high level. We're going to ban you for what? Getting a story wrong? How many times has the Washington Post, the New York Times, and all of them gotten stories wrong? Hell, there are still people there at those publications that still buy into the whole Russian hoax thing. And yet, they just don't wake up. You know, it's reality comes to the door every single day for the Democrats, for the left, and dishes out, well, the truth. And yet, you still have those that still want to cling on to it. And now you've got it, you know, on the whole laptop thing. These organizations, these so-called news organizations, these activists, that changed their tune as if they never said anything in the past that was otherwise. Yeah, I know that things aren't great in newsrooms, but the turnover can't be that bad. These are people that were there then These organizations reported something very different back then, and now are reporting, well, they have to report the truth, because what do when the truth is at your door and evidence to everybody?
James Clapper, who served as Director of National Intelligence under President Obama, recently stood by his decision to sign the 2020 letter. Asked by Fox News if he regretted signing the letter, which claimed that the laptop had all the earmarks of Russia interference, Clapper said no, despite the laptop, which was abandoned at a Delaware repair shop, is now being used by prosecutors in Hunter's federal gun trial. Clapper declined to publicly remove his name from the letter, according to the report, and would not acknowledge that he and other signatories should have waited longer to make a determination.
Well, he doesn't. He stands by it because it worked for them at the time. They stand by with whatever worked for them politically at the time.
Because they don't care about the truth. They care about the narrative and the fact that, look, the lie worked.
Right.
The American public are a bunch of suckers and will buy anything, and they bought this.
And the poll that showed a number of people may have voted differently had they known the truth about it, in 2020 and all of these things. Look, it worked for them at the time. They don't regret a thing.
No. As we stated, whether it's the journalists, whether, reporting, as Jonathan Turley did, that they announce this and don't even realize, well, you guys had the opposite opinion here. Why aren't you going? Why don't you feel burned by the people that told you this? Why don't you go to Clapper and Brennan? Fox went to Clapper, and he said no.
Right.
Why don't the other media go to those people that had stated this? Why don't they question Biden on it, who, remember, used that in the debate?
Yeah, right. Who remember the story of the two New York Times reporters that felt burned by the Hillary Clinton campaign?
Yeah.
You felt burned by the Clintons? Who do you think these people are? Who are they in your mind? Are you really hook, line, and sinker into this? Oh, we got burned by the Clintons. Are you kidding me?
Be surprised if you didn't.
Right. That would be the story. They burn, Hillary and Bill burn each other. They don't care about you. I mean, it's just so stupid. Like, oh, we got burned by Hillary Clinton. She didn't tell us the truth. Oh, my gosh. I don't know. There is no way to wake you up if you're that far gone. If you're going to be that delusional and just buy into it hook, line, and sinker. They talk about loyalists to Trump. Oh, please.
Well, when you actually look at it, and this is why, you had, I think that people like Barry Weiss, former loyal Democrats, Barry Weiss, Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, I think they were blown away when they went and saw the information from Twitter and how the government and social media cooperated to censor the truth over and over and over and over again. I think, frankly, they were scared by the size of it and the FBI's involvement of it. And then what happened afterwards with the Great Barrington Declaration during COVID, where these legitimate doctors came out and said, you're doing the wrong thing. And the government went after them, attempted, censor them, attempted to discredit them, destroy their life. You think about it with the COVID and the laptop, which, remember, the laptop is not about Hunter Biden's gun crimes.
No.
It's about it's about the influence peddling and the Biden family enriching themselves by, at the minimum, the family promising, the family now, because the family collected tens of millions of dollars, the family collected through Hunter Biden and Jim Biden. They got money. It was 11 or 9 or 10, 11 of the family members. So at the minimum, they were all using, because this is their defense.
Right.
They were all using Joe Biden. Joe didn't know what was going on, and they were all destroying the legacy of his presidency to become rich by promising foreign enemies, foreign adversaries, that Joe will take care of you if you give us money.
Yeah, that's the whole illusion of influence thing.
Right.
Is that they were selling the illusion of influence, but they really weren't telling Joe about it, which means they were throwing him under the proverbial bus.
Right.
And quite possibly ruining his political career. Actually, I think he did most of the legwork on that. But that's their defense. That's their standard.
Because they're a loving family.
Because love is love.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We saw Trump with some interesting rallies and stuff over the weekend. We'll get to this story coming up. Georgia workers trained to work in the EV industry unable to get jobs.
Well, you could learn to code. I don't know.
And also the latest on auto and home rates soaring.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this new trend, I saw, too, another article that said fewer people want to buy the new cars. Well, the new cars are expensive. Had a family member just buy a used car. This family member can work on cars, though. They know, and trust me, when they shop for a car, they know everything. They want a car that they know they can work on, essentially. And I've been saying for a while, that's going to be the key for a long time, I believe, in keeping a car a long time. You're going to have to know the basics or know somebody who can work on it for you, because even going to a repair shop is very costly these days. It's crazy.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Despite significant investments in the EV sector in Georgia, including a program launched by Goodwill of North Georgia aimed at transitioning people from low-wage positions to EV job placement, has fallen short of expectations. In a report from WABE-TV, the program was designed to equip participants with the skills necessary to install EV charging stations, a crucial infrastructure component as the state expands its network of approximately 2,000 station locations and over 5,000 EV charging ports. In addition to state efforts, the White House recently announced millions in federal funds to further increase the number of EV chargers in Georgia. But now the Washington Post reports more than 2 years after Congress allocated that money, $7.5 billion, only 7 EV charging stations are operational across 4 states. My God, 7 EV. And as the Biden administration rolls out its new rules for emissions from cars and trucks, which will require a lot more electric cars and hybrids on the road, the sluggish build-out could slow the transition of electric vehicles. So, by the way, we knew this all along. We knew that there were going to be fewer jobs with EVs.
Yeah, I mean, you could see this building to this point, and that's going to remain the case as long as you see the downturn in demand, and that's going to be the case as long as they're enormously expensive to operate long term. They're out of the price range for most people, but they're also out of the routine for most people. It just doesn't, when people talk about, having to spend so much time at a charger in one sitting, or making an expensive conversion to their home and having the power to do it there. It's just not practical. We're not at that point. And I don't know when we will be. Maybe we'll reach that point someday, but it ain't now. And you see now that people are slowing down on their purchasing of new vehicles. And that's because they're expensive because of the whole EV mandate. The efficiency mandates have been driving the price of other vehicles up for quite some time. And the OEMs are trying to find everything they can. You saw it last year when the OEM said, well, we're going to slow down on the EVs and we think hybrid demand is growing. Well, is it? Is it, or are you just saying that and hoping that? And look at all the efficiencies they've made. It has to be practical. We have plenty of energy in order to make the same engines we've been making for a long time that now are cleaner than ever before. But the far left in the agenda, they don't care. Doesn't matter. There will be other mandates beyond the EV mandate if that holds, which I suspect it won't. It'll be kicked down the road. But there are going to be more mandates. It's not going to stop. The government and states got their hands on it. And once they did that years ago, they knew they could control it. And you make it enormously expensive for the lower and middle class. And you're pricing them out of the market in every way. And now with interest rates, you're pricing them out of the lending and borrowing market. So not much is going to change until we decide it's going to change.
You look at it and you talk about, new vehicles and, the Wall Street Journal with that editorial about car and auto insurance, skyrocketing. And the one thing that skyrocketed completely was automobile repair. So people looking to get,
right.
a second car and wanting to buy a previously owned vehicle. Mm-hmm. By the way, I love that people still use used car. It's been used. Mm-hmm. Now you get it, but it was used, Mm-hmm. Previously owned. Oh God, I just laugh at the change in language in our society, but it's up like 48%. In like the last 4 years, where in the 8 years previous to that, it went up like 14%. Used cars actually went down from 2012 to 2020.
Right.
Went down in price.
Yeah.
And now have skyrocketed back up. So you can't afford a new car. You might be able to afford a used car, but can you afford the repairs that are going to come much more frequently if you buy a used vehicle?
That's what I was saying last hour, is that one of the most valuable sets of knowledge that you can have is that about cars, even the basic understanding of it, or have somebody that's close to you that has that understanding of it. Because it will save you a lot of money, and it's going to be imperative to car ownership.
The biggest problem, and I talked to a automobile repair person, two of them just in the last couple of weeks, is the problem is the average person can't keep up to date. That the mechanics themselves were telling me how much they have to learn because of the change of the computer systems on cars. Mm-hmm. That it's something that, and I used to work on, my first car was a 1967 Ford Fairlane GTA. My brother and I tore that thing apart and put it back together again. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even have tried to approach a vehicle today I don't know what the hell's going on with all the wires and all the electronics. You have to keep up with it all the time. The average person cannot do it. If you're talking about changing oil and things like that, yeah, but most of the things that go wrong with the vehicle, the average person can't do anymore.
Yeah, I'd say it depends on, who you are. They probably wouldn't learn it just for the sake of maintaining their car.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
But if you know somebody, and I have a family member who keeps up with all of it because, and they don't, it's not part of their job anymore, but they do it. It used to be part of their job, but they do it so that they can keep up with their repairs. And that's going to be imperative because you're not going to be able to afford brand new vehicles for quite some time. The average person isn't. You look at right now the loans against cars and how many delinquencies you have, and the period of delinquencies are growing, which means people are getting further and further behind. That's going to be across the board, new and used, because the price of money has skyrocketed. And if you don't have great credit to begin with, it's going to cost you even more. So then you're paying several $100s a month for a used car. And that's the problem. I mean, the whole the term cash for clunkers over the weekend came across my brain. But the clunkers are the ones that actually people can get. What they call the cash cars, the things you find for under $10,000 that are easier to fix, that have more available parts to fix, but quite frankly are just cheaper.
When we talked about this election, we have stated that after the lawfare and after Trump was convicted, all the issues are sort of being pushed to the background, even though Trump's out there talking about the issues, even at the rally, which we believe is a good idea. But as we've stated, whether it's Trump or the Republicans that get full power, I don't know how they solve the inflation problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I say
right.
that have the Republicans or Trump shown any interest in actually cutting the deficit and the budget as they would have to do? Nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to touch Social Security and Medicare. It's, well, no, we can't touch. Well, you're going to have to touch it one way or another, either the money going in or the money coming out, one or the other.
Yeah.
And that's not an opinion, that's math.
Yep.
That's math and the economic reality of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got J.D. Vance out there and Trump and what's his name, Josh Hawley, who people view as conservative, that are screaming that we need to, put tariffs on everything. And if you wish to do that to stop China, I understand it, but don't BS the American public and say it's not going to have an effect on them. When you raise the cost of doing business, it's going to affect Americans. And if you have a Republican administration that comes in and their goal is to raise prices to create American jobs, the American public, we've seen it before. We've seen it for decades. Buy American, but if American's more expensive and the quality isn't as good, people will not buy American.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yep.
And you can sit there and scream and yell, but they should. Well, the economic reality is they don't. And so you can promote that all you want. The other problem you have is a low birth rate. If you're going to create these jobs, even if you were going to force it in, how do you get the labor that you need?
Yeah.
And that's another problem that we face. So the Republicans get in power. That's just the beginning. You've won that's the draft.
Right.
What do you actually do? And I don't know what Republicans are going to do. They will talk about, you'll have a small minority say we have to cut. You think Trump's willing to cut and take the backlash if he cuts?
Well, I mean,
I'm
the
asking
thing.
as a question.
Yeah,
I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know how politically you can do it. Now, he won't have to worry about another election, but he has to worry about the midterms. So how do you get that done as a party?
Well, you're worrying about your legacy, and I'm
sure
if anybody's worried about his legacy, and I don't mean this in an insulting way. I mean, with everything that's gone on with the conviction and everything else, I'd want my legacy to be different than, but then again, we've talked about that the legacy of the lawfare is going to be huge. The legacy and the history of reporting on the lawfare is not going to be gentle, I believe, on Democrats at all. But the fact is, Trump wants to have he wants to have a legacy of doing a great job as a president. Problem is, reality has caught up in economics with the entire government, whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Well, this is why I think I believe in I don't have any proof behind this, but I think it stands to reason that a number of Democrats are okay with him winning and the GOP winning for now because they realize how much of a mess Joe Biden has left behind and how impossible it's going to be for them to clean it up, for anybody to clean it up. And so where do you go?
Well, we've also talked about the rot and the stink inside the bureaucracy. If Trump gets into power, so much of his government will still be liberal.
Oh, yeah. And there's nothing you can do about that.
I don't know what you do about that.
There's it's not like there's no kind of training, there's no kind of you can't retroactively go back and sit everyone down and try and find their mindset, or you can't do that. This is an article that I read toward the end of the Obama administration that said, forget about those that required Senate confirmation. All the people during the Obama years that were put into places, strategically hired into places, and it was in the hundreds, if not thousands of people with a similar mindset, exactly what we talk about. Well, that's not going to go away. It didn't go away. It was there before Trump got elected the first time. It was there all during his first term. And if he wins again, it's going to still be there. It's there now. It's not going away. And I don't know what you do about that. Because you can't change the mindset. You can't. You can't reprogram people. They're not going to change who they are at the core. These are activists. And they know. They understand. And in fact, they thrive on having any amount of power and say so in the entire equation.
Yeah, just being realistic about it. If Trump is elected and Republicans take the House and Senate, well, then fine, you've been drafted in. What do you do? And it's such a mess right now. I don't know how you do it. And Americans want the debt less, but spending remain the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the problem. When Republicans, and we stated this about Republicans a couple of years ago on Obamacare, for example, when it came to getting rid of it, they didn't. Why? All Americans, including Republicans, like the benefits, especially if somebody else paid for it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're dealing with right now in the United States. And Trump, like I said, with China, we agree with him on tariffs. On Europe, we don't. But if he does it on China and you have an increase in costs, people are not going to be happy with that.
Right.
And that's the problem when you even have a dysfunctional public that says one thing, but again, in order to get to what they want, you have to do something that they passionately and vehemently don't want.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. A coalition of pediatricians, health policy groups, and conservative organizations is calling on medical professionals to stop promoting transgender medical treatments for children. The American College of Pediatricians and allied groups styling themselves as Doctors Protecting Children have published a declaration urging mainstream American medical associations like the American Academy of Pediatrics to abandon support for so-called gender-affirming care for transgender youths. as physicians, together with nurses, psychotherapists, and behavioral health professionals, plus scientists, researchers, public health, and policy professionals, we have serious concerns about the physical and mental health effects of the current protocols promoted for the care of children and adolescents in the United States who express discomfort with their biological sex, affirming that sex is a biological characteristic and that medical decisions should not be based upon an individual's thoughts and feelings, including their self-professed gender identity. The group assert what is currently accepted as the best practice treatments for gender dysphoria, and that's the fact that it's actually harmful to patients. So finally they're coming around, with it. I'm telling you, I mean, you think about we talked about the blue wave of intimidation that really hit in the summer of 2020, then hit a variety of issues afterwards from critical race theory. And you hear all the purveyors of critical race theory, whether it's Ibram, whether it's Kendi or whether it's Black Lives Matter that's a shell of themselves or whatever. It's all falling apart.
Yeah.
It's all falling apart.
Right. Yeah. It is, and it was always bound to when it wasn't attached to something real. But the far left has known or has been most active in the things that sound good on the surface, right? They sound righteous. They sound noble. And so they all of a sudden attach themselves to that without thinking, without vetting it the entire time. And people and organizations are fallible. We've seen it before. And how long does it take for people to learn that when being burned by it over and over again? You still have a significant number of people who call for the defunding of the police.
I know.
That's going to be the case for a while.
About to trigger somebody right now. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. Well, that shouldn't be hard to trigger. All we have to do is open our mouths.
Yeah, pretty much.
Somebody's going to be triggered by someone.
Yeah, we're just doing our job.
All right, here is the spokesperson for make sure I get the organization right here, the American College of Pediatricians, coming out against the radical transgender movement.
And we have serious concerns about the physical and mental health effects of the current protocols promoted for the care of children and adolescents in the United States who express discomfort with their biological sex. This declaration was authored by the American College of Pediatricians, but really it was developed from the expertise of hundreds of doctors, researchers, and other healthcare workers and leaders who, for years, have been sounding the alarm on the harmful protocols that continue to be promoted by the medical organizations in the United States. Despite recent revelations from the leaked WPATH files and the recent release of the final report from the CAS review, these medical organizations have not changed course. So we are calling on these medical organizations of the United States, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society, the Pediatric Endocrine Society, the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry to follow the science and their European colleagues and immediately stop the promotion of social affirmation, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries for children and adolescents who experience distress over their biological sex. In our declaration, we affirm that sex is a dimorphic, innate trait defined in relation to an organism's biological role in reproduction, male and female. This genetic signature is present in every nucleated somatic cell in the body and is not altered by drugs or surgical interventions. Consideration of these innate differences is critical to the practice of good medicine and to the development of sound policy for children and adults alike. Medical decision-making should be based upon an individual's biological sex. It should respect biological reality and the dignity of the person by compassionately addressing the whole person. We are here defying the claims made by these medical organizations in the U.S. that those of us who are concerned are a minority and that their protocols are consensus. They are not consensus, and we are speaking in a loud, unified voice, enough.
I don't know of anything in the medical profession that was endorsed by the medical profession that had so little research done on it, and it was pretty obvious it would be a traumatic situation for any young person to get the hormone blockers or the surgery without any type of medical peer review.
No, it's a great point. And how the liability alone
I know
wasn't the brick wall.
I know.
Is beyond me, because you've said for a long time what's going to stop all this is the lawsuits. What's going to stop this is these individuals becoming adults going, oh, my gosh, I did something that was irreversible, and all the adults involved not only let me do it, they helped me do it.
Right. They encouraged me. This was premeditated and calculated.
Yep.
It's not even what you would call malpractice, which
Right.
is an accident.
Right. And that's the thing that just absolutely floors me about all this, is how do you not see that? How do you not see this down the road? Well, because believe it or not, you have people who are activists that have medical degrees, that are surgeons, that are not only happy, they believe they're heroes doing it. And that's how it happens.
What I find interesting today as compared to when I became a first talk show host are the topics out there that you can't find any rank and file voter Democrat to defend.
Mm-hmm.
I find that interesting because in my career, you would always find on any topic that the liberals or the Democrats held, somebody willing to defend it and get down and dirty. You really don't. In fact, the entire argument of the left is tried to avoid ever discussing it by calling you a bigot or you're a transphobe or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or my favorite one, which is as soon as somebody starts asking questions on it, it's like, well, that's transphobic. Well, what do you mean? I'm asking questions about how you get to this point of saying a man can be a woman because a man says so. I mean, you're bringing up something that has never existed in all of humankind. So I'm asking you questions to defend this because, frankly, we don't understand this. And the response is, no, you're transphobic and we can't talk about it because if we talk about it, you might upset somebody and then they'll commit suicide.
Yeah.
That's really the argument.
No, it is.
The argument is if you discuss anything about transgenderism and the legitimacy of it, just questioning or asking questions without even any accusations, as we found out. Was it Tom Cotton a couple of years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Cotton or Harley? I can't remember. They're both sort of the same to me. You ever notice they're different? They're the same.
Yeah, no, they do.
They're sort of the same styles.
Yeah.
But I remember when he was asking the Berkeley professor, and she goes, well, that's transphobic. What are you talking about? I'm asking a question.
Asking a question is transphobic. And what they're actually saying is, we're not going to discuss it because we know we'll be defeated immediately.
And so the response is, I'm going to make you feel guilty by telling you that even asking questions on it might cause some people to commit suicide.
And instead of, and you know, which for us, you and I talked about it since then, then now you're bringing up a very important and critical issue. You're talking about the suicidal nature of some of these individuals.
Right.
And how is that not being addressed first and foremost?
Right.
How's the mental health issue not priority one, instead of saying the best way to address it is to not address it?
Is to not even bring it up or question it.
Right.
And admitting that if you're transgender, your chance of suicide is much greater than the average individual.
Right.
And they bring that up as a defense,
Yeah.
not even understanding, wait a minute, you just opened yourself up to an attack.
Right.
You just said, I can't even, everything in the world we can question. And you're saying we can't question here because if we question how you got to this point that transgenders will commit suicide, well, don't we have a bigger social problem here? If somebody hears something they don't like, you're telling me they're ready to commit. That's what the left is telling you. That if you don't agree, they're going to commit suicide. Well, then we have a huge mental health problem here.
Yeah.
Well, no, just by saying that, you're transphobic.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're the one that said that they are much more likely, because of their situation, to commit suicide. You've made that argument.
Yep.
It's just bizarre. But I don't know. I know Democrat, folks out there, and they can't explain it. They don't. Every Democrat I talk to doesn't agree with the radical transgender movement. Yet they allow it to continue, and they really don't criticize the insanity of their party justifying it and promoting it.
Because the far left will come after you. It's
But what they come after you with is so weak.
yeah.
I mean, I
don't have a problem standing my ground. I don't know why they do. I've never had a problem standing up for what I believe in and saying what I believe in.
And by the way, even when you're in that blue wave of intimidation, as we were in the summer of 2020, and then the lead up to the radical transgender movement, which was really the bathroom issue when you go back 8-9 years.
Right.
That was actually the issue, to the point of absurdity where they started pulling out games, sporting events. If you're not going to allow, think about this, if you're not going to allow a male into a female's bathroom, well, then we're pulling all the sports from your state because you're a bigot. Well, you're a damn misogynist.
Yeah, and all the companies that say we're not going to do business in your state, but they'll do business in parts of the world that would kill them, that have a death sentence for that kind of behavior.
Yeah, I saw some of the Queers for Palestine at the protest over the weekend.
Yeah.
And they just denied, no, it's Israel that will kill gays, not, it's just, they're completely.
You're either clueless or you're lying. It's one or the other.
That's the other thing. People that are for a movement that would destroy them.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me when you've seen this in American political history. Ever.
It's never happened.
Ever.
It's never happened. Never happened.
Well, it's a gray area.
Yeah.
I believe you, but that's a gray area. I'll have to reconsider whether my support for Hamas is justified.
Yeah. You know, the one girl, well, I guess that's something to think about. Something to think about?
The gray area, too, would you say it's a gray area?
Well, it's a gray area. We can agree to disagree. You're clueless. And you just admitted you're clueless.
And then she thought Israel was a Muslim country to begin.
Right.
I mean, completely and totally clueless of the situation. Right. Is somebody, I read this yesterday, I believe that everything we see today is based on participation trophies. If you give people a trophy and they haven't earned it, they believe they've got an infusion of brains when they haven't.
Well, they want to show up, at the protest and be the loudest, and they have no idea what they're protesting, what they're for or against. Time and time again, we've seen this. They just walk around with a dry erase board poster. Okay, what are we protesting today? and they just jump on it. That girl was proof that that is in part what's going on.
Because it's absolutely, it's nuts. It's insane.
Well,
and all these things that are insane are major policies endorsed by a major American political party.
And if only there were some kind of device, one you could hold in your hand where you could find the truth, find out the facts. Simply, with 2 thumbs, you could get it done.
Oh, yeah.
Just imagine if that were the case. Oh, wait, it is. We don't need Glenn Kessler at the Washington Post to do our fact-checking for us. But apparently, some people never learn.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
In Trinidad Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, we'll have more of the polls that are out there, and also Trump speaking in Vegas. We'll have some of that. Very interesting, just one of the polls here. Strong majority of voters and most Hispanics, majority of Hispanics, would back national program to deport illegal immigrants. Wow. That's how bad people view it, though. And as you can see, people understand now that Biden caused this, so he's not going to solve the problem. The polls showed that only 20% believe that he will solve the problem of illegal immigration if he gets a second term.
Yeah,
people don't
right.
buy it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who the 20% are. I'd love to talk to them. It's not going to happen. If he gets elected for a second term, it's going to get even worse.
Yeah.
He's going to keep doing what he's been doing. That's the whole point of him not getting reelected. It's the only way to stop it. There's no way in the world he would stop it. He would look at it as confirmation that the American people want this, that they want the spending. They want him to abandon our strongest ally in the Middle East. They want him to abandon the border. Go get people in other countries and bring them here.
It's really interesting how blunt they are in their Israel hatred. I will say this.
Yeah.
Even the president.
Yeah.
As soon as something comes out, like, the hostage rescued, well, okay, we're going to need something to get a ceasefire going then.
Yeah, right.
Like immediately, the first thing out of his mouth. It's really horrible. I think it was Cotton who said over the weekend that what we said, my God, they're just bluntly pro-Hamas.
They are. They are. Every single day you see it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Talking about inflation's Wall Street Journal lead editorial, a politically made insurance panic. Auto and home rates are soaring, and the the causes include inflation and lawsuit abuse. It goes, auto insurance rates are up 46.2% since January 2020.
Wow.
More than in the 8 previous years combined. Homeowners' premiums have soared 37.8% since 2019 and 5.8% in the first 3 months this year. Arizona, 62%. Illinois, 56.9%. Texas, 54.5%. California, 48.4%. And Florida, 42.2% have seen the highest increases. Insurers are withdrawing from states, forcing policyholders to scramble for alternative coverage. State-backed insurers of last results are swelling. Florida's Citizens Property Insurance Corporation is now the largest insurer in the state.
Wow.
Progressives blame what else? Climate change and corporate greed. Insurers have underwritten financial fossil fuels, and then they profit from selling protection from the impacts of those fossil fuels on climate, Elizabeth Warren proclaims. And now when there are climate risks are rising, they're trying to hang Americans' families out to dry here and demanding either higher premiums or to get out of the market altogether. Well, no to Elizabeth Warren. The actual culprit is a bad storm of inflation, litigation abuse, and government-made dysfunctions, which have been made worse by a string of bad weather. Start with auto insurance rates, which have increased in tandem with accident claims and vehicle values. Used in new vehicle prices have increased 29.4% and 20.4%, respectively, since January of 2020. That's used in new vehicle prices, by the way. More expensive cars cost more to insure. Prices for vehicle parts have risen 21.7% since the start of the pandemic, while repair costs are up 48%. Wow. Well, the progressive anti-police movement has reduced traffic enforcement, resulting in more reckless driving and accidents. Deaths from alcohol-related accidents have risen by a third since 2019, as arrests for drivers under influence and traffic citations have fallen 20%. Effect, meet cause.
Yep.
Litigation abuse is also growing as plaintiff firms sue insurers for inflated damages. This is the one reason, in addition to rising medical costs, the average bodily injury claim has increased by some 80% since 2014. Excessive litigation accounted to about $4 billion in commercial auto insurance claims in 2021. So there you go.
Falling credit scores. In fact, in March, early March, we learned that the average credit score fell for the first time in a decade. And when your credit score drops, that's going to affect your premium. That is factored into it. And so when you look at everything combined, it's just becoming too expensive to own a car.
New vehicles from 2012 to 2020, an 8-year period. New vehicles went up 3.2% total.
Yeah.
From January 2020 to April of 2024, new vehicles up 20.4%. Used vehicles for the 8 years before COVID were down 8.4%, down 8.4%. They've now risen 29.5%.
Yeah. Wall Street Journal on Friday had the story, no one wants a new car now. And here's why. It's not just that they're more expensive and that used cars are a better bargain, but it's also the older cars retain designs and features that are more coveted than their high-tech replacements. I'd say that is the case to a certain extent, but really the price point is the problem.
It's a price point.
And that's not going to change. Prices aren't coming down. The only way to remedy the situation we're in is to increase the buying power of every family. And you have to do that through a massive expansion of wealth. And that comes from mining, energy production. It comes from innovation and things like that have over the years expanded wealth greatly. And a real expansion of wealth has to happen with the support of the American people. And we have to get away from this nonsense of what we're doing now. You can't even breathe without worrying about the liability of one thing or another. If you're in the corporate world, if you're a corporation, everything is potentially a great liability.
Vehicle insurance went up in the 8 years previous to COVID, 44.9%. In the last 4 years, up 46.2%. Mm-hmm. Vehicles, parts, and equipment from January of 2012 to January of 2020, 8 years, 0.14%, just a little over 1/10 of 1%. Mm-hmm. From January of 2020 till now, up 21.7%. And vehicle repair in the 8 years previous to COVID, up 14.1%. Since then, up 48%. Wow. For vehicle repair.
Yeah.
It is noticeable. I've brought my vehicle in, had to get a ton of stuff done on one vehicle and taking the other one in for inspection and who knows what else today.
Yeah, the parts costs are through the roof. If you can get them on time. You know, talking to some long-haul truck drivers over the last couple of weeks, talking to them about repairs and how long it takes to get certain parts in. You're talking about a vehicle in that case that is their business. It's their main business tool. And without it, you make no money. And when it comes to the average American family, passenger vehicles, when you carve that out, right now we're just at a time when people really don't want to buy cars. Here's new cars. Here's part of the article from Dan Neal, Wall Street Journal on Friday. It's not just the political class. America's fleet of cars and trucks is also getting long in the tooth. Last month, a study by S&P Global Mobility reported the average age of vehicles in the U.S. was 12.6 years, up more than 14 months since 2014. Singling out passenger cars, the number jumps to a geriatric 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the average. And it is because because if they point to, the new tech and features, the new tech and features comes with a cost. It goes back to the cost. I don't want to have to repair something down the road that's going to cost me a lot of money. And you're talking about adding a feature that really doesn't make a difference in my drive from A to B. And those are the things that people look at. I want a basic car. I want the flip phone of cars. I don't want everything in it because I understand the cost of everything that comes with it. I have one family member. Do they still make the manual roll down vehicles? Do they sell any new vehicles with the manual roll down window? I don't know, but if they do sell them, then he's one that's going to buy that, and he's going to buy the plain rubber mat floor. He's not going to get the bells and whistles, and he has plenty of money. And the reason is because of the repairs. The more you add to a vehicle, the more it's going to cost to repair. You were mentioning earlier, the onboard computing system and everything that it drives. When you get further and further into that, the cost of repairing that or replacing that becomes enormous. And then you get, back to what choice do I have? And you see more and more people looking at the older vehicles saying, nope, easy to repair. I know I can repair it. I know I can find parts for it. They're readily available, and they're also cheaper. And I don't have to get into the bells and whistles on everything because that becomes far too expensive. You know, we bought a new battery for a vehicle, I don't know, a couple of months ago. It's like, man, remember when you could get a new battery for under $100?
Mm-hmm.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the cost of everything. And it is, when you get into a vehicle, it's the compounding cost of everything. So the cost of operating it, the cost of maintaining it, all of that, you know, has to be, basically the cost of ownership has to be factored in.
Look, that's why we know that so many on the left were upset of the fact that Governor Hochul came in and stopped the subsidizing or the extra fee to take the subway.
Right.
And one of the things we had to mention, you know, what she doesn't realize is, because she's talking about a business tax, where she's talking about taxing the poor, New York rejected that. I guess they did what we thought they were going to do. I didn't update the story, but that's what they had planned. They were going to have a vote to just give IOUs
right
to the MTA there, the subway system,
right.
Mass transit, and, you know, just spread the cost along all New Yorkers.
Right.
Not New York City, across the state.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing.
Yeah, and you know, you can't, they're scrambling to do anything and everything. We talked about what inflation does with when it hits all these municipalities and cities and states, when people can no longer afford things. You know, when you're no longer getting the revenue as a city or a state, and then all of a sudden you've got to come up with some kind of creative way to keep taxing people to death. And they don't know any other way. There's no other way. If they want to increase revenue, there's no other way to do it. You got to tax people.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Senator Tom Cotton was on Fox News Sunday and had a little discussion going back and forth on Israel and the rescuing, not the release, CNN, but the rescuing of 4 hostages.
Shannon, thanks for having me on. What a wonderful day for the people of Israel to have 4 of these hostages rescued in a truly heroic, well-executed mission yesterday. I had a chance to speak with Prime Minister Netanyahu shortly after the mission. He commended the Israeli Defense Forces and Shin Bet and the Israeli police who helped execute this operation. I'm very dismayed by sources from the progressive left here in America, to include the New York Times and Washington Post, who are somehow condemning Israel for saving 4 hostages at the cost of supposedly more than 200 Palestinians. Now, we can't take at face value what Hamas says through the supposed Gaza Ministry of Health, but my advice to them would be, if you don't want your people killed in hostage rescue missions, then you shouldn't take hostages in the first place. You should release them once you have, and you certainly shouldn't hide them in civilian areas. So hats off to the Israeli security forces for a fantastic day in rescuing these 4 hostages.
Yeah, there you have it. And, of course, the liberal media can't have any of that. They're going to go by the Hamas playbook and really the words written by Hamas. I mean, if you look at it from all along, from the beginning, all the talking points, all the press releases written by Hamas, and the liberal media is just repeating what Hamas is saying. So it makes it look like something that it's not, playing right into the hands of Hamas, and they don't have a problem doing that. Over and over again.
When you see everything that was written over the weekend on it, you shake your head. You shake it in general. The fact that the Democratic Party cannot, in unison, condemn the pro-terrorist movement, and the reason is because many of them are for the pro-terrorist movement in this country.
Right.
They are pro-Hamas. They hate the Jews.
Yep.
This administration hates the Jews. The Biden administration is anti-Semitic. First thing he came out with, we need to have a ceasefire.
Right.
Stop the war. It's everything. Everything is advantage Hamas, and it's this simple. Hamas could release all the hostages today.
Yep.
Nothing stopping them from doing it. They started the war. End of story.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, the longer this goes on, Eric, the insanity you saw over the weekend in Washington.
Yeah.
You're just like, why? And you juxtapose that with, and somebody made this point, think of it if the Democrats thought, if liberals thought, if the radical left thought that you had set up a president and filed bogus charges and in a kangaroo court convicted them.
Gosh.
What would happen? It's not been no type of violence at all from Trump supporters. In fact, what you see are extremely energetic crowds cheering the Republicans, and you're seeing insanity on the left. Absolute insanity.
And it's going to keep going in both of those directions. The former President Trump's base has been motivated all along. This adds more fuel to that fire and also brings others into that, and we've seen it. We saw it last week, the week before when the verdict came down. When the verdict came down, people that had never made donations politically were making donations. Those are the numbers that you pay attention to. You see that people are motivated in a very different way. And that has I think a lasting effect. And then they're going to add to it, quite possibly, July 11th, the day of his sentencing. And we'll see how that goes.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Well, the big news over the weekend in the sports world, Caitlin Clark did not make the Olympic team.
Yeah.
Some of the memes, some of the stuff put out there was just great. There was a guy who was pretending he was the head of the, the women's Olympic team, and he was like, "Look, this is women's basketball. If you come and you play in the team, you're going to bring in tens of millions, hundreds of millions of new revenue. We're women's basketball. We don't make money."
Yeah.
and we're going to stick to our principles of not making money or having nobody interested in the games. It was just
who needs a capable player?
It was absolutely hilarious. She probably over the last year is the most popular athlete in the United States. You can make that case right now.
Yeah.
That she's maybe
quickly becoming a household name. I mean, and that's.
And she played. I watched the game she played in over the weekend, where she had 30 points.
Yeah,
and she was much. She looked like, and she didn't early on. Now I haven't seen every game, but I watched like probably a half of one game early on. Like, okay, she's not herself yet. She was herself over the weekend. She scored 30 points. She was bombing in 3-pointers. She was making great passes. She played really, really well. But the fact is, when you have a player of that level, it's almost like not allowing Michael Jordan to play.
Right.
When he was in college.
Right.
There are people that are transforming, that can transform a game. And she should be on the Olympic team.
Well,
but look, so much of the controversies you and I've talked about is not her comment. She's not commenting really on anything. When asked about it, she congratulated everybody, and came out from her coach that she said, basically I'm going to double down and I'm going to make it in 4 years, and basically they're going to regret not putting me on the team.
Yeah,
because that's how hard I'm going to work on my game.
Right.
She's not the one causing the problems. You think about it, so people like Jamel Hill, the avowed racist, formerly of ESPN, she's just a race baiter consistently. And, whether it's jealousy or envy or, I don't know what it is. You and I read the article. I forgot who wrote it. Look, we got to keep women's basketball black. Like, who the hell thinks of these things?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the bigotry from the left. One thing is she's been very good for Google, too, as millions of people have Googled the words, what is the WNBA? And it's one of those things where she's just going to be consistent. She's there to play. She's making that known. And everything, all the flack that comes at her, she's just going to brush it off and keep moving, keep doing what you do. And that's to be commended. It would be very easy to get very vocal about that, because she's worked her way there. She earned it. She didn't get to where she is out of anything else except for earning it.
Well, and granted, they played the last place team, but she took control of that game.
Yeah.
Over the weekend. I mean, she took control. She scored like the last, at least 7 points. I'm like, whoa. Because I was watching that, turned off, came back, and I went, it was the end, and it was like, did she score all the – and she did. I went back and looked at the box score, and wow, she scored all the – it's like 5-7 last points, which means they went to her. She wasn't afraid to take the last shots over and over again. I think they only – forgot if they won by 1 point or 3 points or something like that, but it wasn't a lot. The other thing in sports was interesting over the weekend. You talk about being marketable. Scotty Scheffler, with the arrest behind him, won the Memorial, which is Jack Nicklaus's tournament. He's won 5 tournaments this year. Only one person in the history of golf has won 5 tournaments before the U.S. Open, and that was Tom Watson back in 1980.
Wow.
He's just, but at the end, he, shook hands with Jack Nicklaus. His wife came and put the 1-month-old baby in his arms, and he walked through the crowd with the 1-month-old baby.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm not being cynical. It's just I went, oh, man, I'm telling you, he is so marketable doing that.
Oh,
I mean, just so, because the fans are going crazy. He's walking through with the 1-month-old baby after winning, his 5th golf tournament this year. Yeah. And then I believe this week is the U.S. Open. So it's a major, and he's just, even when he didn't play his best. Then again, it was tough to tell because that's such a hard course. Everybody had trouble actually playing it, but I don't think he played his best golf in the fourth round, but still won by a stroke. But yeah, when I saw that, I went, wow.
Yeah.
That's a marketing person's dream.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and we understand the left is against babies. We understand that. But we still think there's marketing possibilities for him with that.
Yeah, can we still call it Father's Day? It's coming up this weekend. But I guess we can. I'm going to.
I'm sorry.
I might get arrested.
I started thinking of the last story we were doing, and I just went, okay,
yeah. I mean, it honestly.
If you didn't hear,
anybody happen to apologize for calling it Father's Day?
If you didn't hear, we were talking about the what was it? I forgot the Canadian Cancer Society.
Yeah.
Cervical cancer. We're not making this up.
Can't call it the cervix anymore.
Yes, you're thinking we're making this up, and
no, it's
we're
true.
Not.
True. It's true.
Front hole.
Yeah. Not the cervix.
Right.
It's a front hole.
Front hole cancer.
Right.
We're not kidding you.
Yeah. No, this is how insane it is. This is how stupid it's getting. That they have to apologize and go back. But that, it's Canada, so of course they don't want to go to jail. That's the problem. We don't want to go to prison for saying cervix. Oh my God. What are you in for? I said cervix. Oh, you did? Huh.
I didn't call it front hole cancer.
Anti-front holer? That's the front hole. That sounds like a golfing terminology, doesn't it?
Front hole.
The back nine? The front hole? I don't know.
Front holer phobic. Front hole phobic.
It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And yet they keep going.
I have to ask Democrat voters, how did you let your party go off the cliff like that? The politicians did it because they thought they could get away with it and there would be a constituency for them.
Yeah.
But if you're a Democrat voter, why did you go along with all of this? Because this isn't something that just happened this year that you could say, well, it just happened, so we let it go. This has been going on for years.
Oh, yeah, of course. It has been.
And that still, to me, is the big difference between anything I've experienced in covering politics, being a talk radio host for 35, but covering politics for, in the business 42 years, and I was still paying attention beforehand. But the great question is, I don't find people on regular, not the political activist.
Right.
From Democrat colleagues that I know who used to be during Obama so vocal on Facebook and Twitter, absolutely coffin-like.
Yeah.
You don't see anything, and you wonder
nothing.
What is the rank and file Democrat thinking?
Well, why are you letting the back holes control everything?
Now, we know some of them are moving more. Now, this one here, was this a CBS poll that was taken? Let me make sure this is a CBS poll. Strong majority of voters, most Hispanics, would back national program to deport illegal immigrants. CBS News YouGov poll, poll found 62% of registered voters would back a new national program to deport all undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally. 38% said they would oppose. Now, breaking it down, 53% of Hispanics said they would support the deportation of illegal immigrants. Republicans, 88%. Independents, 60%, said they would support wild-scale deportation. 38% of Democrats said they would.
Wow.
That's amazing.
We are at that point where, again, reality is hitting, because this is exactly what sanctuary city, sanctuary county, sanctuary state policy gets you. It was bound to end here. I'm not saying it's ending, but it was bound to get to this point. And you have people, remember back in the day, this goes back years, when a Republican was promoting sending immigrants to the state of California, and Cher came out saying, whoa, what do you mean? We can't afford to take care of all those people. It's like, what do you think sanctuary city, sanctuary county, sanctuary state policy is? It means you're welcome here. It means we want you here. But that's not the case. It sounds all noble in the abstract, does it not? Well, reality has a different sound.
Most independents, 57%, Republicans, 84%, would be in favor of police, this would be local police, working to identify illegal immigrants if there were a national deportation operation. That means local police cooperating.
Right.
A majority, 57% of Hispanics and nearly half of Democrats, 45%, would support this as well.
Right. We're talking about deportation.
Yeah, mass deportation.
You know, this isn't a small thing like, okay, I don't know, build more detention centers or whatever. It's send them back.
Well, the interesting thing is establishing large detention centers. I asked, that was the next question, where people would be sent and held. 52% oppose large detention centers.
That's very interesting.
And people think, oh, okay, then they want them in the...
No, they don't want them here at all.
They don't want them here in the detention.
Right.
48% would support them.
That's big. That is something that's been, I think, building in this direction for a long time. But because of where we are now, with the massive numbers of people coming across, that of course, it was bound to end. It was bound to get to this point. It was always bound to get to this point.
We look at everything that we see right now in this country, and none of us surprises us because on every single issue where they failed us, we knew what was going to happen. Because we understand reality. We're not geniuses, but it doesn't take a lot to understand if you keep on spending money and borrowing, you're soon going to have inflation.
Yeah.
And we finally got the inflation. And when it comes, it's going to be stubborn to knock out. And I don't know when we're going to be down to 2% again. I just don't know.
Well, the median forecast, Wednesday, we're going to get the inflation numbers for May. And the median forecast has it pretty much holding steady as to where it was last month on almost everything except for month over month, which the median forecast shows to be lower than the rate from last month over month. And I guess we'll see. But it's not at the target rate, not anywhere close.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, I got to play this audio cut. It's from Boston Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla. Was asked about two black head coaches coaching in a championship game that hasn't happened in a while. Listen to his response. Here we go.
Hey, Joe. Ben School, Yahoo Sports. For the first time since 1975, this is the NBA Finals where you have two black head coaches. Given the plight sometimes of black head coaches in the NBA, do you think this is a significant moment? Do you take pride in this? How do you view this, or do you not see it at all?
I wonder how many of those have been Christian coaches.
Complete silence. How many have been Christian coaches? Absolute complete silence.
Yeah.
There's no response.
Right? Yeah, nothing. Nothing at all. Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.